with Jim Kojima, and it's really nice to talk to you.
Good to talk to
So
you.
yeah, so you are known as kind of most important, one of the most important judokas in Canada. And how do you feel when you look back on your career as a judoka?
How do I feel?
Yes.
I feel I grew up in the judo world in an era that judo was just starting to expand and get
Yes.
into the Olympics and my opportunity to not only do judo actively but also referee in six Olympic, well, two Olympic games, and then I was on the International Judo Federation referee commission for four. So I attended opportunity to attend six Olympic games.
Wow. And you were really, you really had a important role in bringing women into judo as well,
Yeah,
didn't you?
yes, and women. The IOC always wanted to have women in not only positions in your organization, but also referees in Olympic Games, World Championships, and they pushed international judo to get women involved. And Rusty Koganagi from New York, she
Yeah.
was the one that in 1980 hosted the first Women's World Championship in New York. And I had an opportunity to not only referee, but um, I did interpretation for Mr. Shimizu, who was Nitai Daigako, but
Oh,
he was on the International Referee Commission, and so he asked me to help him interpret the rules, and so I had an opportunity to uh, be involved in the first Women's World Championship.
so you have been recognized as member of the Order of Canada, and also you were also made into the Order of the Rising Sun by the Japanese government.
Yes.
But how did you feel about the Order of the Rising Sun?
Well, it's nice to receive the Order of Canada, but to receive an order from a foreign country, and especially Japan, I was really touched and honored. And the person that received the Order of the Rising Sun the same year was Brian Mulroney, who's
Hmm.
the Prime Minister of Canada,
Oh,
and resolved the redress issue with the Japanese in 1988. And so it was, and I was part of the Mulroney's not government, but I was involved in the international relations between um, uh, racism and having a multicultural country in Canada and promoting it. So I was, as I say, my timing in life was I just rode this wave and kept riding this wave, and I was very, very fortunate to not only in judo. My judo teacher that I admired the most was a judo teacher that was born in Canada. A 6-year-old went to Gobo, Japan, and went to school there and graduated in Gobo High School, and then came back to Canada as a Nidan
now you are
judoka.
Hachidan, right?
Yes,
Eight down
yeah.
black
So
belt. So,
I feel bad for my sensei that I passed them.
so at this moment, at this time, I should disclose the fact that I actually came to know Jim when I was 15 years old. When I came to Vancouver to
13
study.
Chingano.
No, 15 years old.
15.
Yeah.
Oh,
So from that time on,
yeah.
you always struck me as a person of great humility, reservation, because you didn't really boast about these achievements, did you? I mean, you never told me at the time that you were such an important person in judo, and so where does this humility come from?
It comes from, I think, mostly my judo teacher, Yonekazu Sakai.
Yeah.
He taught me that he said he said you're going up the ladder. You're going up not only politically but refereeing wise and in the worlds and Olympics. He said if you ever do things for your own benefit, he said I make you quit.
Oh, did he say that?
Yeah. He said, if you're doing for the benefit of the world, then I will promote you and help you in any way I can. And that stuck with me. And always, he said, in life, he said, when you're young, you take everything you can from your senseis or your teachers or people of authority. You take everything you can to be a better person, and so that resonated in up until 1 month ago in 1953. 80 young Japanese, was all Japanese, started judo.
Oh,
And our parents said to us, judo starting, and so you're going to judo. In those days, you never questioned your parents. You said hi, and you went. But, when we first started out in judo, there was no judo gi sold in Vancouver here.
oh, okay.
So our mothers took 100-pound rice sack and made our pants out of
Really? Wow.
and the tops were made out of canvas. And,
Canvas?
Canvas. And there was no tatami.
Wait.
So
No tatami?
no tatami here. So sawdust was put on the floor and canvas over it.
Ooh.
And that's how for 2 years we did judo. Started that way. But up until January 1st this year, there was 5 of us out of 80 that have continued on in judo for 72 years.
So you're still going to the dojo?
Yes, I'm still
Yourself?
still going to the dojo. And
Amazing.
there's 3 others that are still going with myself. And so we're very fortunate. On New Year's Day, Martin Kuramoto, same age as myself,
Yeah.
he passed away on New Year's Day.
Oh,
And so it's unfortunate. So there's still 4 of us left. That we're all in our 80s and still remembering what Sakai Sensei said. You have to give back. You have to give back. When you get older.
so you're third generation Japanese sensei,
Yeah.
right? And I understand that when you were 4 years old, your family was moved to Alberta.
Yes.
What was the situation then?
Well, Japanese were declared enemy aliens.
Yeah.
And so we were all evacuated to all parts of Canada. We had to go 500 miles inland. And so we went to southern Alberta, the next province over.
Right.
And I was 4 years old, and all I remember is that riding on the train from Vancouver, going through the Rockies, and my mother would say, "There's another tunnel coming. There's another tunnel coming." And we ended up in Calgary, and my mother thought, "Wow, this is not a bad place." And so, but we were put on another train to Lethbridge, Alberta. And when we got to Lethbridge, there was a bunch of farmers who were all waiting for the train to arrive. And so when they mentioned your name, Kojima, that's the farm you went to. And we went to Henry and Cora Blair. We six of us, my mother, my dad, my grandmother, my grandfather, and then on the other side, another grandfather. So six of us lived in a chicken coop, 10 by 6 chicken coop. And in the wintertime, the snow would come through the eaves because it was a chicken coop, you know. And so I remember my parents stuffing the roof with clothes or paper and tried to keep the snow and the wind out.
Wow.
But the farmer was really, he was a poor farmer. But Japanese people, they wanted to move many times because it was not a good farm. But Japanese are such loyal people, and they stuck it out for 5 years. In 1946, Japanese had the opportunity to go back to Japan if they wanted to. And about 2000, apparently went back to Japan. My parents and my grandparents put all our suitcases together, and we were going to go back to Japan also. But the farmer, Henry and Cora Blair, convinced my parents that, saying that you don't realize the state of Japan is not what you're thinking from before. And so I would think about it, and they convinced my parents to stay in Canada, and so that's why
So that's when your life really forked, and
yeah.
if you went back to Japan, what kind of life you would have?
Yes, we would have ended up in Gobo, because that's where my aunts and
Wakayama?
uncles were. Yeah,
Wakayama?
Wakayama.
Oh.
Yeah.
So looking back, what do you think is the strength of Japanese culture, heritage?
You know, Japanese people came here for a better life, and they were much like Europeans. A lot of them thought they'd make money here and then go back to Japan. But life, you know, in the beginning, 60 people would live in a cannery housing, and in the housing there was always a Japanese cook. It was a necessary, and a furo. Always, everywhere, whether it was housing or these 60 people in one building, they always had a Japanese cook and a furo. And but after a few years, you know, fishing there was plentiful here in Richmond, and the people that came to Steveston, where I was born, 75% of the population of Steveston Japanese were from Wakayama Prefecture.
Oh, okay.
And they were fishermen, and because the laws in Japan changed, deep sea fishing laws.
Yes, yes.
And so that's why they left Japan and came to Canada. I think that Japanese people were hardworking. They always wanted to have good manners and contribute to the community they lived in. And they always respect was always in the top of their mind. And they tried very hard, and Steveston were very fortunate to preserve as much of the Japanese culture as we can. Some people that come from Japan for Judo or Sister City, they say some of the cultural things we have in Steveston are gone in Japan, but you still have them
that's interesting.
in Steveston. So we're very, very fortunate. But like in the early days, when the Japanese men, fishing was plentiful, so they were making good money, and their idea of going back to Japan faded away. So they wanted to bring a woman from Japan, and that's when Picture Brides started
Oh, yeah,
in the
yes.
early
Yeah.
1900s. And the Picture Brides that came, a lot of them thought they were coming to an easy life.
Mm.
But the women found out that as soon as they arrived here, they worked in the cannery or worked on a farm or worked in a Caucasian house doing housework. And probably the last and most famous one is Asayo Murakami. She boarded a ship in Yokohama with 400 other picture brides in 1924. And she came here, and when she arrived here, she couldn't find her husband. And in the end, there was only two people left. She had this picture of this man in her hand. She took it by this man's face. He had sent a picture of himself 20 or 30 years previously. So he was an old man, you know.
I
So she annulled the marriage on the spot.
Oh.
And she worked in the cannery and sugar farming and paid the man off. Took her 2.5 years to pay the man off $250 that he paid to bring her here. But she married another man, same name, Murakami. Not a relative. He had lost his wife and had a couple kids, and he was a boat builder. And there's a Murakami house here in Steveston. I was going to take you there if you had arrived earlier, but next year we'll make a region.
So it is really wonderful to listen to the heritage of Japan here. So you mentioned that respect is very important in judo, right? But at the same time, in the match, you really do your best to win. Right? So what is the balance between respect and doing your best in?
You know, our senseis used to say to us, in judo, as judoka, you're friends in judo.
Yeah.
When you line up for a contest and you bow and step forward, they're your enemy.
Oh!
But when you finish your contest, whether you win or lose, you bow again and you're friends in judo again.
That's very impressive idea.
Yeah, that's what our senseis told us. So they said, Mr. Sakai said he was the only one that learned his judo in Japan. We had 9 other senseis that became black belts here in Canada, but sensei had the Japanese culture, and he was the strongest and toughest, and we'd all be scared of him because he'd throw us around. Like, but no, so there was a lot of, like Asayo Murakami. She was a modern, I don't know, extraordinary lady. She came here with a violin, so it meant that she was high class, or she was from a good family, and a picture that no one knew she had this picture, and it was found out when her granddaughter Linda Ohama convinced the CBC, which is NHK, to do a 100th anniversary documentary of her grandmother, and it was called Obachan's Garden. That's the name of it. It's in Ottawa. It's about a 20 minute. But Linda started to do, when she was 99, started to gather information up, and she went to Japan and to find out her mother came from Onomichi in Hiroshima. And she found out, which nobody knew, she had two girls,
Oh,
and
before she came to Canada.
And she had a boy, and in a month the boy died, and the family threw her out because she couldn't produce a healthy heir.
Male.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so she came to Canada, and she researched. One daughter was had passed away in Hiroshima, and one daughter was living in Shikoku Island, and so she went to visit her and told her that she had 7 brothers and half brothers and sisters in Canada. And one of the things that was haikara from this lady, Mrs. Murakami, was the first child she had in Canada. She named it George after King George.
Oh.
So so those kind of things. She was a very
So
modern.
you know her personally?
No, I don't know her. I know some of her relatives. But
Yeah?
Like Linda, I know Linda very well.
Wow.
Next year you come. I'll get Linda to come, and she went to Japan last week. She does a lot of volunteer work in Japan.
So Jim, modern judo was founded by Kanojigoro sensei.
Yes.
What kind of a person do you think Kanojigoro sensei was?
Well, he was a very smart man.
Yeah.
If he wanted to speak something privately, he'd speak in English. So there was very few Japanese people spoke English. So anything privately he wanted to talk about, he'd talk in English. He came to Vancouver 3 times. In 1932, he came to Vancouver and met Sasaki Sensei, who was the founder of Judo in Canada. And he came from Kobe.
Yeah.
And Sasaki Sensei took him to Lake Louise, Banff, and took him around. And then in 1936, he came back to Canada again. And he took him around BC. And then in 1930, Kano Sensei was a man that was first recruited by Coubertin, the founder of the IOC.
He was one of the IOC committee members, right?
He was recruited by him, and then in 1912 in Stockholm at the Olympics, before the Olympics, Coubertin said to Japan, appoint somebody to be an official member from Japan.
Yes.
And Kano Sensei in 1912 became an official member of the IOC. In 1938, in Cairo, Egypt, they had an IOC meeting in Cairo, and it was agreed in Cairo to hold the 1940 Olympics in Tokyo.
Yes.
And then when Judo would be included in the 1940 Olympics. On the way home, Kano Sensei took a boat from Cairo, Egypt to Halifax, eastern province of Nova Scotia. And then he took a train across Canada to Vancouver.
Oh, so he came to Vancouver again.
And so he wrote, in our dojo, we have a big sign, shikishi, that Kano Sensei wrote 2 that year, one for Vancouver Judo Club and one for Steveston Judo
precious.
Club. I know. And it says, "Tsutomereba kanarazu tatsu." And so during the war, or I should say just before that, on the way home, Kano Sensei got Hikao Maru from Seattle.
Yeah.
Then he died on the ship. So the one from Vancouver is in Uemura Sensei's, in the Kodokan. Uemura Sensei, the president's office.
Yes.
And we have the other original. I said to Sensei last year, I said, I think we have the last one he did.
So this is really priceless.
Yeah,
Writing.
that's why any judoka that comes from Japan wants a picture taken, you know.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
So some people say that if Kano Sensei didn't die, maybe Japan hosted that Olympics in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Then probably Japan didn't go to war
Yeah,
with the United States and so on.
right.
So how do you think about this possibility? I mean, he was such a great man.
Yeah, there was the last person that went around the world with Japan was Sumiyuki Kotani.
Uh-huh.
He became 10th dan in 1982
Yes.
in Tokyo. But, you know, I used to say to Sensei, my first Congress, I was nominated by Canada to go, and I refereed in Vienna in 1975. I went to the Congress, and Japan abstained from voting twice.
Hmm.
And then I came home, and Sakai Sensei said, Kodokan Shimbun, they said IJF is going the wrong way. And I said to Sensei, if your delegates go to a meeting and don't say yes or no, they have no right to complain later, you know. And so then I had a chance to go to Tokyo a couple months after that, and I met Kotani Sensei, and Kotani Sensei said, Kojima Sensei, I'm vice president of All Japan Judo, and if I say something, Hibi in the structure of judo will probably break the foundation. So he said, I won't say anything, but he said from this point forward, Japan has to send people throughout the world to understand how the rest of the world runs. And the other thing is kotoba. He said they have to learn to speak English. And because I complained to Sensei, I said, even with some interpreters, sometimes they miss some key points.
Yes,
you
yes.
know. And I said, daiji no point. If you miss it, you're on another track. You know. So this was 1975, and then in 1998 in Paris, World Championship in Congress, I had dinner with Sato Sensei, it was Yamashita Sensei's sensei, and Tsukuba Daigako's Nakamura Sensei, and Takeuchi Sensei was also Tsukuba University. Anyway, we went out for dinner, and I told him this story, and I said, Sensei, Nihon wa kawatte nai ne, I said. And they said, yeah, you're right, kawatte nai.
So maybe young people in Japan might be watching this video. So what do you say to young people in Japan?
Yeah, I know, Kohai Senpai is very big, and
Yeah, it is. It is big.
and it's difficult. Kaori Yamaguchi from Tsukuba
Oh yeah,
University.
she's a famous judoka. Yeah.
She's a woman that I respect very much, because she'll come to a seminar or a meeting, and she'll say what she feels.
Mm-hmm.
Japanese
Oh, I see.
tend not to.
But that's interesting.
Yeah, not to say how they feel, and I think some of it is they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. But I think like even Sensei, the politicians, if America's wrong, say America's wrong, or France is wrong, but they won't say it, So I think that in judo, there has to be young people that have traveled the world and understand how the world lives and runs, and the idiosyncrasies of each country there are. So, but Japan needs to I mean, I think there's slowly the barriers are breaking in terms of people working for the same company for life. You know, there's some breakage happening there, but uh, Japanese are very respectful. No matter Kohai Senpai is so daiji.
Right. And what do you think about the friendship between Japan and Canada? You are one of the very few people I think who have received both the Order of Canada and Order of the Rising Sun from Japan. So you must have some visions for Japan and Canada.
Yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate. In 1973, Japan and Wakayama became sister cities. And it was from a Hakujin, Jim Murray, who was involved, the first kendo black belt here in Steveston.
Really?
Yeah. He was involved in the fishing industry. Had a Murray Fishing Company down in Vancouver and in Campbell Avenue.
So Wakayama and Richmond is sister cities?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Wakayama Mayor Wujita was the mayor.
Right.
He was against it. Because Wakayama was 480,000 people.
Yeah.
Richmond was 60,000.
Right.
And he said there's too much population differences. So he sent the group to Gobo and Tanabe and different smaller cities in the Wakayama province. And but they kept insisting Wakayama City. So in 1973, July, Ujita Sensei came with a delegation and signed here. And then in September of 73, I was part of a delegation that went to Japan to sign, witness the signature of Richmond Mayor Henry Anderson, who signed the documents to become a sister city. But Richmond, Wakayama was in 1942 when we were all evacuated inland.
Yeah.
75% of the Japanese in Steveston were from Wakayama
I see.
Prefecture. So that was a strong, and I think that because a lot of people came from the same prefecture, I think there was a strong bond between them and like, you know, I was talking to another gentleman, Dr. Horry, and he said in Vancouver they were from all over, you know, and whereas in Steveston you're lucky you had a group of people that were from the same area in Japan, so you did a lot of things together.
Yeah, you know, Jim, I went to Wakayama City some time ago, and people told me an astonishing story. They said that in Wakayama, there were no keigo, respectful expressions. Is that true? I mean, so, you know, that's very rare in Japan, right? I mean, you say equally, you know, you say person to person without any consideration of the social status or so.
So
that's what they told me in
that
Wakayama.
Wakayama people don't.
Use keigo.
Oh,
That's what they said.
yeah.
Do you feel that's in your heritage? I mean, your grandparents came from Wakayama City, right?
Yeah, from Gobo area.
So maybe they were straightforward and.
Yeah, I think I think people in Wakayama say how they feel.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
that's how I feel because
Oh,
I've been to Wakayama maybe 100 times.
oh, 100 times?
Yeah, and
Much more than me.
because every time I go to Japan and Osaka, I go at least 6 to 10 times. They invite me to come and
You go to Wakayama.
Yeah,
You know what? Maybe
or-
I should go to Wakayama with you.
Yeah. and go to Shirahama and around Wakayama.
I see.
And there's a Kuno Gardens in Richmond here in Gary Point Park.
Uh-huh.
So you need to go there too. next year when you come,
Yeah.
we'll go there. But Kuno, Geihei Kuno came from Wakayama Miyomura,
Mhm.
and he came in 1888.
Right.
And when he arrived actually in Victoria and took a boat across to Steveston, and he invited many people from Wakayama the next 20 years or so. In 1907, the Lemieux Agreement. Lemieux was he was the Minister of Immigration.
Mhm.
He said so many people from Japan can come, so many from Korea, so many from China, etc., etc. Except Mio, as many as can come that want to come.
Oh.
So Mio had a special place in Canadian history in terms of immigration. So, and in the 100th anniversary of Miyomura and Geihei Kuno, there's a memorial in Mio, and there's a memorial here in Gary Point Park.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but no. The Japanese people, I like, even when I was young, I was told by my grandparents, Nihonjin no haji kakenai yo ni shinasai. So I remember my grandparents saying that many times to me, and but no. I think Steveston were lucky in the sense that there was only two groups in Steveston that were the major groups.
Mhm.
United Church Group and the Buddhist group. Those two. So when the Nikkei Center was being built, I was asked to get the groups together and talk about supporting the Nikkei Center in Burnaby, and so I did. So I just got the two church groups, and we met at the Buddhist temple, and we talked about supporting. But it was interesting. The Japanese people in Steveston were different than the Vancouver Japanese.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I went to Mr. Hashimoto's house. He was an older gentleman.
Yeah.
He was in his around 90, and he had no kids, him and his wife. And I said, Oi-san, let's support the Nikkei Center. It's better here in Vancouver area than in Toronto or Montreal. And he said, never! He said, Vancouver hito ni senso mae ni baka ni shiareta. Never, never.
So I see. That's interesting.
And so they were from Shobainin,
Okay.
from near Kyoto, between Kyoto and Nagoya.
So they were in the commerce, right?
Yeah. So they looked down at the lowly fishermen in Steveston. So there were, because I remember in my latter years in the 1970s and that, I became involved with the Japanese JCCA and stuff, and people were giving me a bad time in Steveston about joining them, and so
I see.
yeah.
So in a sense, Jim, you actually really climbed the social ladder, didn't you? I mean,
Yeah.
and you became actually number one top Canadian Japanese, right? Like on par with David Suzuki, maybe. He's one of the most famous Canadian Japanese person now.
Well, as I said, I rode this wave, and the wave was not too rocky, so I was lucky.
By the way, Jim, I remember you as a really excellent executive at the Tree Island Steel.
Yeah.
What was the secret of your success as a business person?
You know, the owner, part owner and president of Tree Island, his
Yeah.
name was a Jewish fellow, Abraham Sachs.
Right.
He was from Chicago. His father was a rabbi, and Abe took judo
Oh.
from Mr. Ishikawa
Oh, I see.
in Chicago, and he became up to a brown belt.
Right.
So when I joined Tree Island, the first thing before I joined, I said, there's a world championship in 1967 in Salt Lake City, and I want to take a couple weeks or a week and a half and go to it. And he said, yeah, that's fine. So as I grew up, not only politically in BC and in Judo Canada, or in my endeavors of refereeing in the world and Olympics, he supported me all the time.
Well, that's wonderful.
So I was very lucky, and because even in Los Angeles in 1984, I wasn't going to go, and he said, "Well, aren't you chosen by the International Judo Federation?" Yeah, I said I am, but I don't want to take 2 weeks holidays to go there. He says, "No, go do some business for us there." So I did, and
That's wonderful.
yeah, no, I met some really nice people, but you know, judo. I don't know if Sensei, if you know Panama City, Noriega.
Oh yeah. Noriega, yes.
In
That
19,
is he a judoka?
he was he was involved in Pan American Judo, and when we had a Pan American Judo contest in Panama City,
Yeah.
he took us out for dinner,
Uh-huh. Oh.
and the restaurant people that were in there weren't many. They just cleared out when they saw him coming in. But no, there was people like him. But I met the Indian president, Mr. Tytler, Gaddish Tytler.
Yeah.
And he went to school with Rajat Gandhi.
Oh.
He went to primary school, university, and he said I was in Halifax, and he said Mrs. Gandhi was the prime minister, and she said there was a lot of killings going on, and so he phoned Rajat and said, "What's happening? Our country's falling apart." And so Rajat said to him, "Come back to India and find out for yourself." He became, under Mrs. Gandhi, he was an MP, MP for 20 years, and then under Rajat he was MP for 7 years until he died. But he was a very, very interesting man. I went to India. He invited me to go to India one year, and he took me around Delhi, and we went to a place called Lucknow, in northern India. And he said, and I'm riding around with him in this London cab, like a London cab. It's a limousine in India, and there's a man with a police a gun, and then there's a jeep in front of us with two guys with a gun, and I said, Mr. Tytler, I don't feel so safe riding with you. If you die, I die. I don't want to die. Yeah. It's okay, Jim. Don't worry. But yeah, he was a very interesting, one of the most interesting men I met. And he said, you have to come again to India and go to the southern part of India. He said, we're a big country. And he talked about immigration or controlling population. He said, by 2030 or 2025, he said, our population is going to be past China. And he said, that's a problem. We can't keep up with the infrastructure of the country. But I met a lot of nice people like that and learned a lot of different things.
Through international judo, right?
Yeah.
So I think Japan has been kind of stagnant in its economy for the last couple of decades. On the other hand, Japanese culture including manga and anime, have been accepted by the world. And of course, judo is now one of the really main sports in the Olympics.
Right.
So, how do you feel about the transition of Japan in the international, society?
Yeah, it's the world has become difficult because it's become so political.
Now, especially right now, yes.
Yeah, and in the judo world, it's become East against West
Really?
politically. Yes,
Right now.
right now.
Oh,
Yeah, our president is from the Eastern Bloc, and so it's hard to for Uemura Sensei or any one or two Japanese to get control of judo.
and they are strong. You mean as a judoka, these people from the east, they are
Yeah,
strong.
politically they're strong.
Politically strong. Okay. Okay.
Because Putkin is
Oh yeah, he was.
judoka.
Fruit is a judoka.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so you know, it's it's not a democratic society, but you know, you go through different waves. I know when Mr. Park was the president of judo for 10, 12 years or so. He changed the judo from the Spanish president Bagano in international judo. He said the International Judo Federation money is 80% is spent by the executive of judo,
Oh,
and 20% is only going to judo.
oh,
He said, in my term, he said, there will be no more 5-star hotels, and you have comfortable hotels, but 80% of the money is going towards judo. So I was very fortunate, and he said to me as a referee director in 1995 in Makuhari, he became president, I became referee director, and then Francois Bisson from Paris was the sport director.
yeah.
And the three of us, we pretty well controlled judo in that era, because all he said to Francois and I was, you guys come up with a program for your section, refereeing, for instance, with me, and he said, I'll find the money. Don't worry about the money. So that's when, after 95, 97, I held my first women's world seminar for referees.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So I was able to hold it 3 years in a row, but he just said, come up with a program, I'll find the money. So, and so a lot of things he did was for the benefit of judo in the countries.
So how do you feel about, of course, Kodokan is a special place, and Japan has a special place in judo, I think, but judo has become global. And for example, judogi is no longer white only, I mean, blue and white.
Right.
And so how do you feel about this role of Japan in the international judo from here?
Yeah, that's a tough question. In 1975, the rules, or 75 in Brazil, was the first junior world championship. That's when rules changed in terms of scoring. Up until that point was Ippon and Wazari.
Yeah, yeah.
Then Yuko came in
Yeah.
75, and Koka came in 75. So 4 different scores. The judo has now brought back Yuko into the scoring system. Koka is out, but I said to Urmara Sensei, I said, we used to have Ippon largely on the back, force and speed is Ippon.
Mm.
Wazari is lacking one of those elements.
Uh-huh.
And I said, right now, the last Olympic period, Yuko and Koka were called Wazaris.
Mm.
And Wazari, interpretation of Wazari is almost Ippon.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's gone. And so they brought back Yuko, but which makes it a little bit better. But still, Yuko and Koka, if you get a Koka score, it'll become a Yuko.
Mm.
So the only thing that Japan is right now able to control is a kata, world kata competition.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The IJF has told the Kodokan, we will abide by your recommendation. So the Kodokan is controlling world kata competition.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but
So it's like karate kata competition, like
yeah,
oh.
yeah. But traditional judoists don't like kata competition.
Oh, I understand. Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's a show.
Yeah, yeah.
The key points of the kata are not kuzushi and all this
Right.
are not the main focus. So kata becomes a show. If it looks good, and the competitors are good-looking women,
Uh-huh.
their scores somehow
Yeah.
get inflated.
Okay.
So, but no, I think kata competition is good for judo because it's starting with the kids now. Which
I see.
And if you learn kata, you also are learning different techniques in judo.
I
Because
see.
you have to perform.
Do you
them.
teach kata?
Yeah, I'm a kata judge.
Oh, you're kata judge.
Yeah.
When did it start, kata competition?
Around 2002.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's been there for a little over 20
And
years.
and Kodokan has control over kata
Yeah.
competition.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
Oh. But as kata competition becomes more popular global, probably countries would try to, influence kata competition as well, right?
Yeah, like there's some country like France is very strong in basic judo. They're
Yeah,
very
yeah.
strong in
Yeah.
preserving the principles of judo. So
Yes, yes.
France has always been very good. The Germany's good, England's good. The Scandinavian countries are good too, but yeah, it's expanding judo is I think is always good.
Yeah, you are one of the persons who were responsible for expanding judo, right?
Yeah,
Especially in Canada.
Yeah, well, that's why I was very fortunate with Mr. Park, working with expanding judo in the Olympics for women. Like 1988 was the first demonstration sport women's judo in Korea, and in '92 they became part of the Olympic men and women.
Yeah. So Jim, we have been talking for almost an hour now, and
Oh.
I thought this was going to be 30 minutes or so. So this has been a really, pleasure and privilege to talk to you like this. And
Thank you.
ever since I, came to know you at the age of 15, you have been always amazing me. And so maybe the final question, what would be your dream, ambition from here in your life?
It's a good question. I've had so much opportunity to further myself in many different ways.
Yes.
Like, in Richmond here, I know the mayor and councilors. I know the senior staff
Yeah.
in the city. So many things that we get in Steveston, we are able to get from the city.
Oh,
And so we have a very, very good relationship with the city. And so I just hope that, Yamashita Sensei, I know, was trying to put judo back into the curriculum of schools. And judo, martial arts is very good because it teaches respect.
Yes.
And to be humble and to bow and say arigato, and so I just hope this world will be a fun place for everybody in the world to get along.
okay. So thank you for the city of Richmond, and thank you to the people of Canada, and hey, producers of the next Karate Kid movie. Why don't you include Jim Kojima in the cast?
Thank you, Ken.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it very
It
much.
has been such a pleasure and
Yeah,
privilege to
thank you.
talk to you, Jim. Thank you very much.
Arigato.
Thank you. Of course, yeah.